All right, guys, I just took measurements of this giant notepad board, and I'll show you why in just a second. Gotta head downstairs. So, Nate explained to me that clipboard notepad stand is shipped from Italy, and if you want to buy paper that fits it for flip charts, he also has to have those shipped from Italy, and it's not very cheap to do. So he's ordered this giant roll of paper, and we're gonna try and make our own stack of flip chart paper with this roll of paper here. So we need to roll it out, measure it out, cut it out, staple it all together. So let's see if we can get that done and see how long it takes. Alright friends, good morning. We are back at Home Depot, one of my favorite places. We're gonna try and find some staples for a staple gun, or try to use for a quick small project for Nate and his clients to use during their videos, and we'll hope it works. We are back at the studio house after our quick trip to Home Depot for those staples. Last week I cut a bunch of sheets of paper off of one giant roll of paper in order to attempt to make a packet of sheets of paper to use as a flip chart for Nate when he makes his YouTube videos, and for his clients. Occasionally they want to use a flip chart. So instead of paying exorbitant amounts of money to ship the right size paper packets from Italy to fit the flip chart stand that Nate has, we've got this cardboard, which isn't particularly flat. It isn't the same size as the paper that I cut out, but I wanted to see if we can use it as kind of the back of that pack of papers in order to stabilize it before we put it on the stand. All right, so I was mistaken as far as the size of the cardboard. It is larger than the paper width-wise, you will see that, but it is not as long as the paper, which I don't think will be too much of an issue. If it is, we'll find out. This is an experiment, but I do think it'll work. We might need to try a different form of staple gun or stapler. Maybe we can find an industrial stapler so that the staples will round on the back. For now, they're just kind of going straight through and then snapping to the concrete, which is why we're doing it in this room. But I'm gonna try to perforate the papers a little bit so they can tear a page off when they're done using it. And like I said, it's an experiment. Let's hope it works. Alrighty, so I did get it perforated. We'll see how well it I don't want to test ripping it off because I don't want to waste a sheet. We'll let Nate do that testing portion of it. But we got it perforated, at least the first couple of pages. I couldn't quite cut through the whole stack of sheets of paper. The next time, if this works out, if Nate decides this is gonna work, the next time I create a flip chart tack, I'm gonna want to use a different piece of cardboard for backing, simply because this one is warped. Kind of bubbles down here at the bottom. In fact, we may need to take that off before Nate decides he wants to use this. So I'll keep an eye out for a large piece of cardboard that we could make work. But otherwise, I think this turned out pretty well. Made a quick run to Home Depot, grabbed some lumber, also grabbed, let's see what we got here. So grabbed some stain that hopefully will match all the trim, get you out of light, all the trim that's up all over the inside of the studio house. And we're gonna build our own little frame, like Nate asked, for a long wall. It's not really a flip chart at this point, but it would be just a long 24-foot piece of paper that hangs up under this frame on a wall downstairs. So I'm gonna get this in the garage and we'll get started on getting everything measured just right, stained and cut out, and hang it up on the wall. Another day. y'all. Back here at Home Depot. I've got to pick up one more board for project, a few hinges, maybe a few other things. And thankfully Walmart's just down the lane here. I'm gonna stop there to get some snacks and drinks for one of Nate's new clients who will be filming this weekend. So let's hop to it before we freeze to death. I got this lumber, but we don't want it to look like straight lumber. We want to stain it to match as well as we can the trim all over the house. So I'm going to cut off a small piece of one of these boards and do a test stain on it so I can compare it to the rest of the trim in the house. Let's hope that it matches. All right, here at Home Depot again. Gotta get 1/2-inch screws and 1.5-inch screws. I think I'm finally making some good headway on the frame that I'm building for the wall chart that we want to put in the great room downstairs. So I'm just gonna run in here and grab those and then hopefully be done in the next couple days, but let's see what happens. Okay, so I've gone through and marked roughly every 16 inches, so I know where the studs are. And I just kind of verified that by going into the room on the other side where there's no drywall, so I can see the studs, measured the distance between them, came back on this side, verified the distance. As high as I marked it though, I can't quite reach. This is not quite 2 feet long. So what I've done is I've brought the boards in that I'll be staining and that will be forming the frame. Boards on this side will be roughly 2 feet tall, a little bit shorter than that, but this way I can go off my marks. I can use this square to find the marks I've made on the wall, and then I can mark it on the board here. I've got the board pushed all the way up against that frame, the frame of that door, so it should be square. So hopefully this works to help me figure out where the studs are based on where these boards will be, so I can cut out notches for the hinges that I'll be screwing onto this board. So that's the plan right now. I'm gonna go ahead and get it started. All right, another day coming back to work on the frame that is for, it's not a flip chart, a long 25-foot piece of paper that's gonna go on the wall. That'll be like an alternative to flip chart. So I've been using chisels. This is just a practice piece of wood. Chisels to cut out groove spaces for the hinges that will go on the frame wall, and it's really kind of hard to get the depth consistent all the way across the board on all of these spaces. So what I did was I went and purchased a miniature router attachment head that can fit on a Dremel tool or a rotary tool. Didn't have to be Dremel, but that's what we have here. And we're gonna test that out, see if we can get a uniform depth and a clean look for all the spaces where I'm gonna put hinges. So we're gonna head out to the garage and give it a shot. We're gonna give it a shot on this test piece of wood first before we do anything on the actual frame boards. I think it will certainly get the job done. Maybe not as quickly as I'd hoped, but where I've already chiseled out the majority of them, I've got one board that I haven't done the space for. I think just cleaning those up will go pretty quickly, and then we'll get started on the last board. So I just put a second layer, or a second coat of stain on those boards that are going to make the frame for our little chart, and I can't really do anything else with that. While that dries, I've got to put a clear kind of glossy coat on it after it dries up, so that'll have to be later today or early next week. So in the meantime, I'm just going to clean up the garage, get stuff thrown away in the garbage cans that will then be picked up by the demo truck today. Alright, so yesterday I ran into an issue where with the boards not lining up, mostly I assume due to the fact that the wall is not perfectly flat, it's warped and wavy. So my initial plan I drilled holes in both ends of the board, so I can put 2 dowels in there and then glue it all together. And that just isn't going to hold it. It didn't give it quite enough strength. So we've got this little L bracket. I'm going to take it up to the garage and cut a few lengths, shorter lengths off of it. Make sure there's 2 or 4 holes drilled in it, so I can then screw these 2 boards together, same with the other side of this middle board and the last board. So we're going to see if this will fit on there without being too noticeable, and head to the garage. Okay, the next thing I'm going to try to do this morning really quick is I've got all of these pages cut out for a homemade flip chart, and I've got this big old piece of cardboard. I'm going to try to cut out a backing for the flip chart, and then I'm going to staple the papers all together on top of that cardboard. I'm going to use this 1x6, so I'm not stapling it into any carpet or concrete. Initially I thought I had cut out enough to have 2 flip charts, and really I could do that. I think I'm going to try and put both of these stacks of paper together though and make one big flip chart for now, and then I'll make a couple of more flip charts. I think I've got enough cardboard here to do at least 2 flip charts, maybe 3. We'll see what happens. I'm going to just do at least one today. I'm going to go ahead and get started on that. Right, got a handful of tools here really quick. We've got some blue painter's Scotch tape to use to mask off around the frame that we put up, so that I can then take this clear semi-gloss coat and put it on the frame. So it kind of matches the gloss, hopefully, the gloss of all of the trim that was already here in the house. And then we've got this small 2-inch wide brush to apply with. So first thing I've got to do is take the paper down off the wall, then we'll mask off the wall and the other trim that was originally here, and see if we can get to putting the gloss on today. If not, chances are very good that I'll end up putting it on. Okay, we've got the wall chart. I don't know if you can see the whole thing from here. The frame done. It's not tight like into a dish or anything, but we've got a frame around the paper. I will need to, of course, cut paper a little bit longer in the future so that it still goes underneath this side of the frame. And then I've got 2 little L brackets that I created and that are hanging from the ceiling. We'll have to put maybe another screw up there so I can make sure that they stay out of the shot whenever videos are being filmed down here. But these L brackets are here, as you can see in the video, to hold the frame up on its hinges when we take down and put up new sheets of paper. So anyways, there it is.